You may travel to Antarctica, to Villarrica Volcano, or even Murder City of Mexico, but there is one place in the world where you are legally banned to travel by the state. That one place in the world is the forbidden island of North Sentinel. Located 36 kilometers west of the town of Wandoor in South Andaman Island in India, North Sentinel has been legally forbidden for travelers from all around the world since 1956. What is the mystery behind this island? Why are people banned to visit this island? Want to know the answers? Then stay tuned till the end of the video, because we are going to reveal some of the amazing mysteries about North Sentinel Island. But before we go any further, make sure to leave a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel, so you never miss our daily dose of informational and educational videos. Now, let's get started. Covering an area of about 59.67 square kilometers, North Sentinel is a 60,000 years old island surrounded by coral reefs. After the death of a 26-year-old American tourist, John Allen Shaw, who was killed by the indigenous people of the island, the world has become curious to know the mystery of this place. The North Sentinel Island was probably first noticed in the 18th century. One night in 1771, an East India Company hydrographic survey vessel sailed past Sentinel Island and observed a multitude of lights. But the ship was on a survey mission, and there was no reason to stay at this place. The team didn't try to discover the place, and the island remained undisturbed for nearly 100 years until in late 1867, an Indian merchant ship called Nineveh was wrecked on a reef near the island. More than 100 surviving passengers and crewmen landed on the beach in the ship's boat and huddled there for 3 days before the Sentinelese decided the intruders had overstayed their welcome. They attacked the Nineveh passengers and crew, to which they responded with sticks and stones, and the two sides formed an uneasy detente until the Nineveh crew was eventually found by a Royal Navy rescue party. At that time, the British were ruling India, so being in the neighborhood, they decided to declare North Sentinel Island a part of Britain's colonial holdings. Maurice Vettle Portman, a young Royal Navy officer, took charge of the Andaman and Nicobar colony and landed on Sentinel Island with a large party of naval officers. He found hastily abandoned villages. The people seem to have seen the intruders coming and fled to hiding places further inland, except an elderly couple and their 4 children, who were captured and carried to the colonial capital on South Andaman Island, Port Blair. As written by the colonial officer who was in charge of the operation, the entire group sickened rapidly, and the old man and his wife died, so the 4 children were dropped off at their home with quantities of presents. But what happened next? Did the children spread their illness to the rest of their people, or how they affected the population? It's still a mystery. But for sure, the experience obviously didn't leave the Sentinelese with warm, fuzzy feelings toward intruders. Enjoying the video so far? Then don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel for more helpful videos. You'll only get smarter, and it's free. The visits didn't end there. 100 years after the wreck of the Nineveh, the first peaceful contact with the Sentinelese was made by a team of anthropologists led by Trinaknath Pandit, working under the auspices of the Indian government. Although Pandit and his colleagues managed to drop gifts, make repeated friendly contacts, and beat a hasty retreat, there was still no progress due to the difficulty in understanding the Sentinelese language. Another visit was made in 1990 by the Anthropological Survey of India to make contact with the people of the island. The outreach team included the first female anthropologist, Madhumala Chattopadhyay, to join the endeavor. Madhumala specialized in the indigenous tribes of the Andaman and Nicobar Islands, but had never been to North Sentinel. That's why both Chattopadhyay and her parents were required to sign waivers acknowledging the danger of this expedition. When the team arrived on the island, they were welcomed by armed men on the shore, but instead of gesturing angrily and firing their weapons, they calmly walked toward the shoreline. As recalled by Chattopadhyay in a National Geographic article, the team of survey started floating coconuts over to them, and surprisingly some of the Sentinelese came into the water to collect the coconuts. Perhaps it was the presence of a woman or the effect of past relations developed by Trinaknath Pandit, but for some reason, the Sentinelese let down their guard and happily accepted the coconut. Some tribesmen waded out to the boat, examined it, and also allowed some of the outsiders to walk around the beach and interact with Sentinelese women, teenagers, and children. But they were not allowed to cross the limits and enter the jungle or see the village. Encouraged by the past welcoming behavior of Sentinelese, the anthropologists returned a few months later with a much larger team. But this time, the interaction quickly soured. The inhabitants of the island were not satisfied with collecting floated coconuts. so they boarded the ship and tried to take the whole bag. One Sentinelese man even tried to grab one of the police officer's rifles, mistaking it for just another scrap of metal. But when the police officer forcefully took it back, he got angry, whipped out his knife, and gestured to the team to leave immediately. After this cold interaction, the anthropologist's visits to the North Sentinel Island have been ceased by the Indian government. Surprisingly, in 2004, the island survived the 8.9 Richter scale earthquake and its aftereffects, including tsunami. As the relationship between the people of North Sentinel Island and the rest of the world has remained confusing, it is hard to estimate what the Sentinelese think of the intruders. In 2006, an Indian crab harvesting boat drifted ashore, and the people of the island killed both fishermen and buried their remains, so it's really hard to predict their thoughts. Given the history, it's not really surprising that why Sentinelese killed American tourist John Allen Shaw and buried his remains. John Shaw was only the latest in a long line of unwelcome intruders, including merchants, escaped convicts, fishermen, and filmmakers, whose intrusions onto the island have been met with an angry volley of arrows. A few tantalizing glimpses of life on isolated North Sentinel Island depict that inhabitants live in primitive huts, spearfish from dugout canoes, and wear no clothing at all. These people are living on the island for centuries without any foreign invasion. That's why they never welcome outsiders. One major reason why the state of India has banned visitors to travel to North Sentinel Island is that the inhabitants of the island are not immune to any infection in other parts of the world. As they have no experience of meeting people from other areas of the world for centuries, they have never developed immunity to any infection in the world. That's probably the reason why the elderly couple died when carried outside the island. For the sake of the health of the Sentinelese, the government of India has prohibited any visit to this island. But still, the country is trying to make connections with the inhabitants of the island. The last visit of Indian officials to the island was in 2011. John Allen Shaw, part of an international movement of young adventurers, was well aware that inhabitants of the island are prone to infections. That's why he submitted to several rounds of vaccinations to ensure that he didn't bring any outside diseases to the island. But the Sentinelese, as expected, didn't like his visit and responded with arrows, eventually killing him. According to the fishermen, whom Shaw bribed to bring him to the island, the Sentinelese dragged his body to the beach and buried it. Unfortunately, the Indian government failed to recover the remains of John Allen Shaw. As most of the island is covered in forest and the inhabitants are hostile to outsiders, it is difficult for Indian government officials to learn anything further about North Sentinel Island or its people. The Andaman and Nicobar Regulation, 1956, protects the inhabitants of North Sentinel Island. In 2005, the Andaman and Nicobar administration cleared that they have no intention to interfere with the lifestyle of the Sentinelese and are not interested in pursuing any further contact with them, eventually giving an end to the story. Recently, the Anthropological Survey of India issued a document in 2021 recommending a hands-off, eyes-on policy toward North Sentinel Island. According to this document, instead of trying to visit the island, the government should offer protection from the 4 T's that threaten the Sentinelese's untouched Eden, which are travel, transport, tour, and trade. That's all for today. What do you think should be the policy of the government for protecting North Sentinel Island? Share with us in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to share the mystery of North Sentinel Island with your friends. Also, please check out other videos on our channel as well. Thanks for watching.